and hand things off to our CEO, Jane.
Great, thank you, Zap, and appreciate everyone being here. Do want to thank Zap for taking the lead on taking care of our Zoom and our podcasts, or not podcasts, but our Zoom seminars for our community. The Nashville Entrepreneur Center is here to make sure that we surround entrepreneurs throughout their life cycle with the resources they need to increase their probability of success. And several months ago, had the good fortune of meeting with some people from Dell and talked to them about the vision of the Entrepreneur Center, about our entrepreneurs and how awesome and great and amazing and creative and innovative they are. And Dell chose to be a partner to come with us and help us really be able to surround the entrepreneurs with resources they need. And so we are really, really thankful for the partnership. And we really do want our entrepreneurs to know that they have a Dell for Entrepreneurs program that offers, and I'm gonna put on my glasses to make sure I get the global expertise through mentorship on technology issues, offering office hours, providing webinars and product discounts to our entrepreneurs. And again, all of this is to help you wherever you are to go to that next stage in your business. And so we really do appreciate the partnership. And I personally have loved getting to know Mobolaji and him really working with the corporate to make this happen. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, also really do appreciate Marcus and the relationship with our team. So today I'm gonna turn it over. I wanna thank Jason for being here to speak to you on raising capital in a crisis. That is, I call it the $64,000 question because I'm old. Now it would be the multi-million-dollar question. But anyway, I'm grateful for all of you, and Mobolaji and the Dell team, thank you again. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Mobolaji.
Thank you so much, Jane. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. Well, hello, NEC. Hello, entrepreneurs. Name is Mobolaji Sokunbi. I oversee strategic partnerships in the Center for Entrepreneurship for Dell Small Business in the States. Also do work with some of our Canadian teams out there. So it's so nice to be here. Jane mentioned, we're pretty ecstatic about this partnership, about getting a chance to work with the NEC and the entrepreneurs within that community. I'm not sure if we all are aware of this, but our Nashville office for Dell Technologies is our second largest physical location in the States. So it made sense for us to make sure we have something in place, right? With the NEC. So I only have a couple of minutes, right? I know you might be wondering, Dell Technologies, huge company, a company of 130,000 employees around the world. Why is entrepreneurship important to us, right? The first thing I want us to remember is that our CEO, Michael Dell, who was the United Nations Foundation's first global advocate for entrepreneurship, is probably one of the most iconic entrepreneurs, right? And started making his own computers out of his dorm room at the University of Texas, and so that's why this is so important to us. When we do have this conversation with entrepreneurs, we have received and we've heard different things over the years in terms of what the pain points are, what the needs are. And our goal as a company is not necessarily tell entrepreneurs what to do, is to empower them to do more. It's simply that. And that's why we have this program, the Dell for Entrepreneurs entrepreneur program in place to make sure that we can cater to those needs. Now, over the past 35 plus years, Dell Technologies, right, has always done unique things with entrepreneurs over the years. A couple of years ago, though, we made a concerted effort to have a program in place to make sure that we tackle those needs, right? We wanted to make sure we had some sort of method behind our madness. So hence, that's why we launched this Dell for Entrepreneur programs. There are four key things I want us to remember, just from the standpoint of benefits we can provide to entrepreneurs in Nashville and to the surrounding communities and to entrepreneurs that are tied to NEC. Number one is that we do have IT consultation for startups in place, right? Like Jen alluded to earlier, there's a gentleman on this call called Marcus Devane. Marcus, can you wave your hands? So Marcus is the account executive, that owns this relationship, for Dell Technologies. And with the IT consultation we have in place for startups, right? What we're saying is that, once you partner with us, you can rely on our team to provide that consultation to you as an entrepreneur. I do realize that, entrepreneurs and startup founders, they wear so many hats, they have so many things to worry about. When it comes to their technology, we want them to put that burden on us, whereby we can have that conversation with you. So Marcus currently is having a ton of roundtable discussions with entrepreneurs across the US, We also have a team of 450, at least 450 IT advisors, startup IT advisors in the States. Half of that team is based in Nashville, Tennessee. The other half is based in Austin, Texas, where we have our global headquarters. And they're willing to have those conversations with you right now to talk about whatever your needs are. That's one. The second piece is that we want to serve as an accelerator for your technology, right? It's not uncommon that, oftentimes when entrepreneurs are partnering with different companies, they have to go to company A for this and company B for this. With Dell Technologies, everything starts and stops with us, right? From your solutions, your end-to-end solutions, whether it's around like laptops, desktops, to your enterprise, right? Whether you're looking at like servers, networking, switches, we want you to come to us so that we can accelerate you when it comes to your technology needs. More importantly, we do realize that every entrepreneur is at a different place on that journey. Some entrepreneurs on this call are probably just starting off. Some are ready to scale. Wherever you are on that path, right? Dell's got you. Dell Technologies got you. And so that's a second key value proposition we have for you. The third piece is access to capital for technology. When we have this conversation with entrepreneurs on a daily basis, one of the key pain points they share with us is that, hey, Mobolaji, I just got a round of funding. Marcus, I just got a round of funding. I cannot afford to put that all in technology. We're like, okay, you know what? We got you. Internally at Dell, we have Dell Financial Services. So you don't have to actually burn through your own cash or burn through your own funds. You can put that burden on us, whereby we can provide favorable financing terms, whether lease options or just simply finance terms, 6 months, 12 months, no interest, to make sure you don't take that burden on as an entrepreneur that's willing to scale or willing to get started. So we can be we can be provide that financing and those needed benefits around that for you when it comes to your technology. And then the last piece is rewards. We want to put some money back into your pocket. So through our program, we're able to offer up to 6% cash back and rewards, for your program. That might be true, some of the financing offers we have in place. That could also be based on maybe certain the technology you provide for us. We can offer 6% back, to you. And also that in the long run actually saves you a ton of money. So these are the key pieces that we have in place, that allows you as an entrepreneur to either scale, or if you're the onset of that journey, to take off. These are the key 4 things. Again, IT consultation for startups, accelerate, your technology, access to capital for your technology, which is very important. And we want to also be able to offer rewards to startups. The last piece I love to add to this, and we've seen this come up a lot in our conversations with entrepreneurs in Nashville and even all over the States, is that we want you to understand again that, we are a one-stop shop. Anything that you need for technology, right? Dell Technologies got you, right? And again, that conversation starts with Marcus Devane, who's on the call. And Marcus Devane is tied to over 450 tech advisors that you can work with going forward. And once you have that partnership established with Dell Technologies, you can have your own Dell technical advisor, your own IT advisor work with you going forward, in perpetuity. That's the beauty of this, okay? So those are the key things. Now, oftentimes people do ask me hey, Mobolaji, if I want to learn more, how do I find out about this, right? One of the key ways you can do that, one is just shoot us an email and let us know what you're thinking, how we can help you out. If you want to have a conversation around cloud, if you want to have a conversation around VR, AR, we have the internal team. If you want to have a conversation around gaming, right? Dell owns Alienware. We can have those conversations. I know within Nashville, a lot of startups we've talked to are focused on health, right? Are focused on entertainment, mainly music. And we've seen an uptick in e-learning startups in Nashville, right? We can have those conversations with you to figure out how we can help you out. So a couple of ways, feel free, send an email out to startups@dell.com. Again, that's startups@dell.com. Or you can simply visit the Dell.com site, Dell.com/NEC. That's National Entrepreneur Center, to learn more about our program. And I can guarantee you someone on my team will get back to you within 48 hours, okay? So, and Marcus just, I believe, dropped some stuff in there also in the chat. And Marcus, also please include the startups@dell.com inbox, and also the NEC page within the Dell.com environment. And Marcus will get back to you within 24 hours. So those are the key things. Now, the piece I'm pretty excited about also today that we'll get a chance to do today is to invite our guest speaker here, right? Which I believe Jason should be on the call right now, I believe. Is Jason on already?
Jason should be on.
I am
Jason.
here. I didn't want to interrupt you. You were on a roll, and you were doing great work there. And it's just great to be here. It's great to see so many folks on the call. And I see some people I know. Actually, I see one of my portfolio companies already. Hey, Jason, from
Awesome.
yeah, was in our accelerator class. He's doing great.
So
And
Jason,
yeah, it's good to see everybody. Wow, if everybody in the chat room could just tell me what city you're in and what stage your startup's in. Are you pre-revenue, post-revenue, six figures, seven figures, whatever, just so I know who's in the audience. Sorry to take over. I have a tendency to do that.
no, it's okay. So Jason, let me before you take over, I'd love to provide some background a little bit about Jason. And I know
Oh,
Jason.
here we go.
No, I know
Here we
Jason
go.
Reminick. Jason Reminick knows Jason pretty well anyway, right? So we talked about that. So for our entrepreneurs on the call, just kind of provide some background on Jason Calacanis. So Jason's a technology entrepreneur, angel investor, and the host of the popular podcast, This Week in Startups and Angel. Jason, as Jane alluded to earlier, will be speaking today on raising capital in a crisis and answering all your questions on the tail end of this webinar. As a scout for the top Silicon Valley venture firm, capital firm, Sequoia Capital, and later as an angel investor, Jason has actually invested in over 250 early stage startups, including 7 unicorns, billion-dollar valuation companies. His book, which actually, when I visited with your team, Jason, I think earlier this year, I actually picked up a copy of that, of your book. His book, Angel, How to Invest in Technology Startups, Timeless Advice from an Angel Investor Who Turned $100,000 into $100 million, was published by HarperCollins in July 2017. Jason currently lives in San Francisco. I'm glad that, Jason's, one of our partners on the Dell Technologies, Dell for Entrepreneurs front. And I'm glad he's actually joining this webinar to speak about his background and his experience. So Jason Calacanis, you're welcome, sir.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. And it's great to see so many founders here. And I love to hear what's on your mind and what you're dealing with. Most of the time I get questions from folks, revenue, product market fit, and investing, or getting investors interested in your company are amongst the top questions, but I always get all kinds of niche questions. And just looking, I see we have San Francisco pre-seed, Nashville raising a seed round, Nashville pre-revenue just launched a public beta, fantastic, raising a seed in a couple of months, raising seed round, pre-revenue, post-seed, okay. 1-year-old startup, post-revenue, yum, yum, that's what I like to see. I like to see a little revenue, even if it's just a trickle. And how did you get the Twitter handle? I used to just sign up for every service the second it emerged. And this is a really important concept, I think, for optimism. One of the things the world is severely lacking now is not resources. My gosh, you just heard what Dell's willing to do for your startup in terms of resources. Resources are not the issue anymore. What the world lacks today, in my opinion, and it is just my opinion, is optimism, creativity, entrepreneurialism, and solutions. All the building blocks are there. We solve very complex problems. We just need the entrepreneurs with the will to do it. And today, and yesterday, I watched as a company called Blockable, B-L-O-K-A-B-L-E, a company that came to me with a deck through a referral, former Amazon executive who said, I have an idea. When you make houses in the real world and it rains, you can't build. And then when you hit the hammer against the nail, the neighbors complain. And then when you go to build the next house, you have to bring all the equipment to that next location, whether it's a mile away or 100 miles away. And the people who build those houses, well, their life is just leaving their families for months or weeks on end to go some location and build a house. And they said, if you ordered a Tesla, how would it feel if they just dropped all the parts in your backyard and then started putting it together? You'd be like, this is crazy. And I said, great. How do you solve that problem? He said, well, we're going to build a factory like Tesla did. We're going to build the houses there. Then we're going to put them on trucks. We use cranes and put together multi-story buildings. And, we've all heard of prefab homes and this kind of stuff. And they went on a 4 or 5 year journey. We had them in our accelerator. And they are able to now build homes on land if regulations let them. They can build these homes in factories in weeks. They can set them up on location in days. And here's the punchline: the homes last for years, hundreds of years, because they're using modern materials that cannot be used in the field. So you would look at something like affordable housing, and it seems so insurmountable, doesn't it? How many people have just read a story in the last year or two that housing is broken, or had a conversation about housing being broken? It's like, and then how many people have read a story about college being broken in the last year? Like everybody. And then a founder comes along. We have a tiny invested in a company called Lambda School, and another one in an education company called Dexter. And Lambda is so certain they can teach you to be a developer that they'll let you come to their school for free if you show some basic aptitude or achievement, even not aptitude, basically some hustle and some math. If you do a little bit of Khan Academy for like 2 hours a day for X number of days, you're probably qualified. And then they'll take the risk of the $20,000, $30,000 it costs to teach you to be a developer. And then you pay them back over X number of years if you get a job in developing. And so one of the things that the world needs is more of everybody on this call, and optimism, and the belief that you can do it. And that's really a large part of my day, and Jason can talk about this having gone through our accelerator, is, gosh, it always seems so insurmountable to be an entrepreneur. It seems like it's just impossible. Really, the hardest part is believing that you can do it, and that even if you fail, getting back up and doing it again. 6 or 7 out of 10 startups will fail. Now that seems just like horrific. If it was a war and we said we're sending 100 troops in and 70 will die, you'd say, I don't know if I want to fight that war. Are we sure we want to go into battle? That's a pretty high casualty rate, isn't it? And some people put it at 80%, 90%, depending on what stage we're talking about. And the truth is that as much as it feels like a war, it's an experiment. And it's 1 to 5 years of your life, and we all get 40 years in our professional career at a minimum, hopefully, if you live an average lifespan. So why not take a couple swings at bat and see if you do it 3 or 4 times? If 2 out of 3 times you're statistically going to fail, do it 4. You're statistically likely to have one of them succeed. And this is what my life has become in a very weird moment in time, where people feel that capitalism is broken, entrepreneurship is broken, the world is broken, everything is terrible. So why do people feel that way? That's an interesting question, right? Well, media and social media. If you mitigate your life through social media, you see on either side the pessimistic battle between people who are fighting over the past and providing no creation largely and no solutions largely. And if you just sit here and think creatively, whether it's about the pandemic, whether it's about education, whether it's about transportation, the folks in this room, and there's almost 100 of us in here, we would do more good in an hour just talking about a topic and brainstorming. If you were to do that on social media, you'd be destroyed. How dare you come up with a crazy idea? And then if you were to do that as a politician and you changed your mind, if you say, you know what, we thought housing should work this way, but we actually came up with a better solution. It's the other solution. They'd say, well, who came up with the solution? Which side came up with the solution first? Who owns the solution? It's like, well, it's just a solution. Like, instead of using nails, we use screws, and instead of using screws, we're using bolts. It's just a tool. But we don't look at that, right? And this is what I'm trying to encourage founders, is to block out this noise, which is getting louder and louder in society, and focus on that customer. That's your true north, is the customer. The customer who is going to buy your product or service, they are going to tell you the truth eventually. And they're going to tell it to you through two really specific ways. One, whether they give you money or they don't give you money. And the other is whether they use your product or they don't use your product. And we are fear-based creatures, we humans, right? We have in our DNA, and the DNA is not much different than it was, 10,000, 20,000 years ago, whatever. Fear is baked into our system for survival. People who are cautious lived longer. We all would walk up to this big river and say, I wonder what's on the other side. And then some person would be like, I'm going to go find out. And they would go in and a giant saltwater crocodile would bite them in half. And everybody would say, well, we're not going to cross the river. And then someday some entrepreneur said, well, I built a boat, I built a bridge, I found a way upstream where you can just climb across a tree and get to the other side. And by the way, on the other side, there's these incredible fruit trees. And boy, it was worth taking that risk. But more often than not, we're scared. And that's kind of the difference between an entrepreneur and a civilian, a regular person and an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is able to qualify the fear and the risk and determine that it's worth taking. If you're on this call, you've probably already made that determination. There will be some risk in you not taking the highest paying job that society provides with the greatest retirement plan. I don't know who gets a pension anymore in society, like maybe some teachers or firefighters or sanitation workers. There's like little pockets of people who still get those things. And what's the safest job with the longest pension? You could take out an actuary table and say, what are my chances of dying as a school teacher versus a police officer versus a firefighter versus a doctor, whatever. It's not really how entrepreneurs think, because in today's society, the chances of the risk of ruin have been greatly reduced. Now, it could be better, sure. If we had universal health care, that is like a real concern that people have. Oh, if I leave my job and I do an entrepreneurial thing and I don't have health care, that could be a super blocker. But generally, people overestimate greatly the downside. Let me just say that again. People overestimate the downside risk almost universally because of our DNA. It's not your fault. It's nobody's fault if they're scared. You're supposed to be scared when you walk up. In fact, this is so ingrained that we've made it into an entertainment device. They're building glass bridges in, places like the Grand Canyon or over between buildings specifically so we can feel like we're about to die. So we can actually have that moment. Just think about how advanced our society has become. We die so infrequently, we live so much longer than we did just 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago, that we now create moments where we can experience a version of dying, like a glass bridge to walk across. I'm not interested in going on those. There's one of them that actually, you walk across the glass bridge, and when you hit a certain point, they don't tell you, but it makes a cracking noise, and it pretends it's cracking, and it's in China where they have an interesting culture. They do some interesting things like this. So the joke is you bring your poor grandma or your dad across this thing and it starts cracking, and you just take a video of them grabbing the handrail and having the scare of their life. That's how safe life has become. And so entrepreneurship, I think, is akin to this, which is, yeah, it's pretty scary, but truth is, failing means you go back to work at a big company, regroup, pay down your debts, and then you make another bet. It's a pretty great system. And I think it's, right now, maybe there's a little bifurcation that's occurred. We've got people who really want to be entrepreneurs. They really want to change the world. And then we've got another group of people who are like, entrepreneurs are actually the problem. Entrepreneurs are not the problem. Let's just be clear here. We might have tax laws that need to be tweaked. We might have tribalism in government. We might have an education system that can be improved. All of those things are going to be improved, spoiler alert, by products and services and ideas that almost universally come from entrepreneurs. So literally, people are fighting about capitalism, and they're fighting about what you all are doing, creating your companies in some cases. And the problems that they're talking about could be solved. So when we talk about education and construction, the problem is not going to be solved by a bunch of tribalism in politics. It's going to be solved by somebody saying, huh, explain to me one more time how we teach people how to read. Okay, great. Is there any new technology out there that would help? Oh, we all have a smartphone? Okay, great. Oh, there's voice recognition now, and then speech to text is pretty good. Okay, yeah, got that. Oh, virtual reality, AR, great. And some people are visual learners. Okay. So where's the AR? Where's the Siri app that teaches people how to read? Haven't actually seen one. Somebody will make it. New technology emerges. It's too expensive. All of a sudden, they become super cheap. And then founders are able to leverage that why now? The question we all ask ourselves, why now? Why will this technology work now? Well, you know, the ride sharing revolution, the why now was people had a smartphone in their pockets. Oh, and it had GPS on it. Oh, and it had payments, or it started to have payments built in. And so you start to see the why now enable more and more. So it has never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. Now, we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's 20% unemployment. What? It's chaos out there. It's scary. Our kids may not be going to school. It is literally the best time to ever be an entrepreneur. Now, why would I say that? Well, number one, everything is at a discount right now. If you were to go spend $1 on advertising today, you would get $2 worth of value because people stopped advertising. And if you wanted to hire somebody to come when unemployment hits 10, 15, 20%, whatever we're at right now, it's kind of scary. You know what's going to happen? People are going to take jobs and stay in them longer. Great. And now that everybody's working from home remote and we're figuring that out, that used to be like this weird thing. Let me just ask a question. 5 years ago, how many people worked from home primarily? Raise your hand if you work from home primarily. Great. One hand. Two out of whatever, 20 on this one screen. I can't see all 4 screens on Zoom, and some of you have your cameras off because, well, we're all working from home and you have your cameras off because your kids might jump in the picture any minute, or you may not have taken your shower yet and just off your Peloton. Incredible opportunity. Like, work from home did not work because only 5% of people were doing it. And if you were the person who worked from home, you became a second-class citizen in your company. You were out of sight, out of mind. You would have to work twice as hard to get half the recognition. Now that we're all working from home, I'm working from home. I'm in my home office. Any minute, 3 little girls are going to come running in here and interrupt this, and we're all going to laugh about it. But before that, you could get fired if your kids jumped on a conference call, but you were on the call with Dell trying to close a deal or something, right? Like, everything has changed. Now that everybody 100% buys into remote work, and everybody's been trained on how to do it, and everybody's got a light ring on their webcam and backgrounds that look really cool, and they took the time to plug an Ethernet cable into their Dell laptop, which, by the way, Dell laptops have an Ethernet cable in them. It's incredible. You can still have ports on a computer. I know this is like groundbreaking. Just shout out to Dell for my Chrome laptop, which has an HDMI, Ethernet, and a SIM card in it, and a USB-C, and a regular 2 other USB-C. It's like, it has every card known to man. I got my ports back. Shout out, Dell. Thank you. Now that everybody's got this figured out, well, boy, what an incredible opportunity. Now, you know, there's somebody in Canada who would love to work for you. There's somebody who moved their family to a ranch in Montana to save money because one of the 2 spouses was laid off, and they took their $6,000 a month apartment in a major city down to $1,200, and yeah, they just want a different quality of life. So in every crisis, there is opportunity. In every crisis, the strong get stronger. And I know this because all the great investments I made were in this 2008, 2009 time period. And I watched when I was a journalist in the 90s when the dot-com collapse happened, 97% of companies went away. Right now in this pandemic, which is arguably, it's not even arguable, it is much worse for society, what's happening right now compared to what happened at 9/11, the financial crisis of 2008, the Great Recession, and the dot-com bust. Those three seismic events put together are not even comparable to the scope of what's happening with this pandemic and the shutdown on economic and lives lost basis, period. We lost more people in one day in New York than we did from 9/11. And I'm a New Yorker and I was there for 9/11. That just, the scale of what's happened right now is, and we don't appreciate it, is my point, because it's kind of hard to appreciate, something that's happening at the scale I think we only appreciate in retrospect. Point being, we've seen in our own portfolio, a couple of companies, a lot of layoffs, but companies are not dying. And in fact, crazy weird thing happened. I had 20% of my companies call, hey, JCal, revenue just went from X to 0. Then I had the middle where people said, hey, nothing changed in revenue. What should I do? Am I supposed to lay people off? Because nothing's changed, but I turned on the TV and it said it's the end of the world. So what do I do? And do I take the PPP loan or not? And I was like, all right, well, let's study the data. Let's talk to the customers. Let's see. And, sometimes it was a SaaS company. They had 10, 20% of people cancel or an ad-based business, they had 50% of people cancel. So the business was impacted, but it wasn't shut down. And then we had this other weird group of people who were like, I don't know how to tell you this, JCal, but we just had our best month ever. And this month is going to be the best month ever. And the month before that was the best month ever. And it's during the pandemic. And I feel kind of guilty about it, but should I hire people? Because the cash in the bank account suddenly started going up, like subscription-based businesses for people who were home looking for something to do. And so you have to be nimble at a time like this. And I think that was kind of part of the point of this call, was to talk about this moment. I can assure you that if you make it through this, next year is going to be extraordinary. We will have a vaccine. We will, in America, come to our senses and wear a goddamn mask, which costs 90 cents. And we would have been through this already if there was just some semblance of coordination amongst our politicians. And I'm not picking sides here. I'm just saying, like, across the board, a failure of leadership. If you all ran your companies like we're running this country in this response to this pandemic, y'all would be out of business right now. There would be no Zoom call because you wouldn't be able to afford your, you would have been shut it all down by now. But we will get through it. I think our country is just weird in the way it's structured as like 50 little countries in one with this tribalism and craziness. But we'll put the masks on, trust me. Like, people are not going to want to go through this forever. And the vaccine will come, and then we'll be sitting on the other side of this. And sometime in the second half of the year, somebody will make a joke about, hey, remember the pandemic? And there'll be like some comedian on Netflix literally doing a routine about Y2 Corona and making jokes about it. We will get through it. That is my belief. And I base that on the fact that human creativity, human resourcefulness has gotten through it every single time. We're still here. We can solve any problem. It's my true belief. And maybe even this will make your company stronger, make you stronger, because you will face adversity and you'll make hard decisions and realize that that is actually the job. And that maybe if you've been in the game for less than 10 years as an entrepreneur, maybe you've only surfed high tide. Maybe you've never actually been to the beach at low tide. Maybe you've never actually experienced a down market or a challenge that was not of your creation. How many people over 10 years as an entrepreneur? Raise your hand if you're over 10 years. One, not many. So then let's raise our hands if we've been entrepreneurs for under 10 years. Raise your hand nice and high. Okay, majority of people on this call have been entrepreneurs for under 10 years. This is the first time you got hit with the tornado. This is the first time you turned your back to say hi to people at the beach and a rogue wave just knocked you on your ass. Congratulations. This is actually where the great entrepreneurs are made. You will get through it, and you'll be stronger because of it. You may have to cough up a little seawater, or you may get, You may get a little bruised and battered, or your company may even shut down. It's possible, right? And then you will learn so much. You will come back so much stronger. In every day that you get up and you fight for your company to survive, you're doing something great for humanity. You're saving jobs, independent of what the mission of your company is. People need to put their kids through school. People need to put food on tables. People need to get a roof over their head. I'm just talking basics here, let alone the honor and the joy that comes from being part of a team and creating something in the world, that fulfilling piece, on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so for the entrepreneurs here, thank you for doing the hard work. It's pretty easy to give up. As a matter of fact, one of the big problems I'm seeing, I don't know if anybody else is seeing this, and then I'm going to open it up to questions because I'm getting all worked up here, and Jason's seen me get all worked up. It just doesn't stop, does it, Jason? He's been in these hamburger discussions for 2 hours with me where we just keep talking and talking and talking because he gets so enthusiastic and worked up. I'm starting to feel it now. This is where the great entrepreneurs are made, and this is where the great companies are made. And you just look in the mirror and realize how lucky you are to be born in this great country, if you are in fact in this great country. If you're in another country, maybe it's as good as America, but statistically, it's probably not. And you have the freedom and the ability to kick ass in this country and pursue your dreams. No matter how messed up this country is, no matter how bad it seems, just take stock of the last 100 people you spoke to and tell me, out of those last 100, how many of those people were bad people? How many of the last 100 people you spoke to do you think had bad intent towards you or to your family, or were just horrible people? It's not going to be more than a couple in all likelihood. I don't know where you're hanging out. I mean, some of you might live in a place where there just happens to be a large number of horrible human beings. The fact is, Americans are by and large great people. And we share so much in common, and it's only the media and this moment in time that's making it feel so bad. And wow, things are getting so good right now for humanity. Things are getting better and better and better. And the reason we feel it's not is because we do not have the adversity that the great generation had to deal with, like World War II, or the Korean War, the Vietnam War. Maybe we're getting our own version of Nixon, who knows? But I'm not saying we got soft, but there's a generation of people who don't remember 9/11. That's a historical event for them now, right? For some group of people. And certainly there's my generation. I'm 49 years old. I kind of heard about the Vietnam War. I know that was bad. We never lived through a depression, just this great recession. So I think sometimes we take it for granted. And there are people in other countries, and they still have us as the #1 destination. There's a reason why people around the world, despite crazy as it seems right now, entrepreneurs, talented people still want to come to this country, and hopefully we'll start letting them back in. Thanks to my friends at Dell for inviting me here to talk to you. What the work we all do as entrepreneurs is super important. This is how we get out of it. This is how we get out of it. Just one startup at a time, one job at a time created, 10 jobs created, 100 jobs created. That's how we actually get out of it. And startups are the driver of the economy. And Dell's got big customers. They can focus on the big customers, but they're smart. They know that the little companies get big. From tiny little acorns come great oaks, right? Great big trees. And so they'll lose money, I'm guessing, on your company when it's under 10, 20 people. Certainly with their time they'll give you. You want to save money. I took my entire company and put them on. The reason I have a relationship with Dell is because I wouldn't shut up about talking about how great their monitors were. And so finally they called up like, do you really like our 38-inch monitors that much? I'm like literally on this giant 38 curve monitor. And then over there is my 40, you can't see it. Anyway, there's my 49-inch Dell which is obscene. But Chrome OS is my like obsession, and Dell monitors and Dell laptops. I love all this stuff, and I mean they're so great to finance everything for you. So I do think there's a lot of people out there who are rooting for entrepreneurs just like me, and we're simpatico on that to my friends at Dell on the call. I'll now open it up to questions. Would somebody from Dell like to read me the questions and make it interactive, or
I can read you the questions, Jason.
Okay.
I'm here to do that.
Was that okay? I have I think I talked for about 7 hours.
It's
but
perfect.
I didn't see anybody leave. So since nobody left, and in fact, the number went up. We were at 75 and it went to 84. So I always just watch that number in Zoom and see how I'm doing. Looks like people didn't leave.
More people
why don't you
joined
read me
us.
the question and then we'll go from there.
So you're good. First question is, what would the top 3 things that you would look for before investing in an entrepreneur?
Okay, so there's me, and then there's like downstream investors for me. There's friends and family, there's seed and angel funds, and then there's VC funds. And they actually behave quite differently. Your friends and your family will invest in you because they know you and there's just a level of trust and they want to see you succeed. I think everybody understands that phenomenon. Let's put it to the side. VCs today are investing in people with one of 2 things, sometimes both. One, a track record. So you started a company, you failed, but you built it to 20 people, you raised $3 million, you built a product, you got some good reviews, it didn't work out, or you sold it and you got them their money back, or you got them twice their money back, or you got them 10 times their money back. So battle-hardened founders are what VCs are looking for, or VCs are looking for people with a chart, and a chart that goes up and to the right. Okay, I've really simplified things, haven't I? Friends and family over here are just making a bet on you. So if they think you're smart, or they just want to support you because you're in their family or a friend, that's how you get their money. It's based on relationship, 100%. Not really on opportunity or anything else. If it was, they would be angel investors or seed funds because they would be looking at 100 companies and comparing you to those 100. VCs are looking at thousands of companies in their organization, and then they make 10 bets a year. So you're literally in a competition to be one of between 100 and 200 people they meet with, and 1 in 500 people that send a deck. And half the people who send decks are crazy and delusional, and the decks are not even fundable businesses by a venture capital, so not venture scale. Okay, so what a venture capitalist is going to look for is they're going to be looking for you to have low double-digit growth month after month. And one of the things that I teach in our organization, as Jason will attest to, is the rule of 72. Right, Jason? Thumbs up if you know the rule of 72. And Jason will explain to us now. We'll unmute Jason, and he'll explain the rule of 72 and why I hammer this to people. Go ahead, Jason. Calling on the audience. How do you like that? Well, can he yeah.
I don't
call it the rule of 72. Can you start it for me so that I can explain what you're referring to?
Yeah, so the rule of 72 is if you divide a percentage growth into the number 72, that's how many periods it will take for you to double your revenue. So a company growing at 7.2% every month or every year will double in 10 months or 10 years, right? 7.2 divided into 72 is a 7.2% growth rate, and boom, in 10 years or 10 weeks. So what VCs are looking for, very simply, is they'll have a conversation with you when you're at 10% growth. They will come to your office if you have 20% growth immediately for 3 sustained months, and anything in between, they're going to, be somewhere interested. Because when you start to see consistent growth at 10%, if we just put a little fuel under that, we give the jet a little more fuel, hey, they're going to get to 30,000 feet, get escape velocity. Companies that are growing low single-digit percentages a month, let's just pick 5. Let's pick you're growing 4% a month, month over month. So you made 10,000 last month, now you're making 10,400. They're going to say, okay, we have that company in our database, and we're going to monitor them. Just keep an eye on them in case, keep a good relationship in case that 4 turns into 14. And 4 to 14 does not seem like a lot unless you look at compounding interest and you just do any compounding interest calculator and you look at either how much you owe your credit card company at 14% or how much money you made at 14% month over month, right? And so That's what VCs are looking for today. VCs are looking for either performance now in the form of month-over-month growth, could be also your user growth and engagement, minutes used on a product, new users, but they're going to dig into that. So it can't be fugazi or faux, you know. So they're looking for performance, past or present. Fans, friends and family, it's just relationships. So now what do you got in the middle? You got angels and seed. And they're going to make that bet that most founders are looking for. Most founders are looking for investors who will make a bet on them before they have performance. Well, guess what? You're not acting in isolation. There are many options for investors to invest in. Seed funds today are waiting until you have your product completed and about 5 to 10 customers before they invest. That's a seed fund. The seed fund writes a check of $250K to $1.5 million in today's economics. We're recording this in 2020. And you could feel free, actually, if you could send me the recording, there's a couple of links in here I might make a blog post out of, and you can feel free to publish this. And I'll retweet it for you. If you then look at the VCs are writing $2 million plus checks, seed funds, $250 to $1.5, friends and family, $5,000 to $50,000 typically per check. So if you want the seed funds, you got to get your product to market. A lot of people are in pilots right now, and the pilots are unpaid. As Jason will tell you, as I mentored him, and Jason was the king of 5 different revenue streams. He was testing a lot of stuff. And I said, I'm making a bet on you, because this is your original question, is what do I do? I made a bet on Jason of $100,000 coming to our accelerator. And I said to Jason very candidly, let me tell you how you'll be perceived by downstream investors. And I phrased it that way, right, Jason? So I did not hurt your feelings. A little bit? No, he knows I mean it like a coach, right? And so like an agent or a coach who might say to an amazing basketball player, like, you're really good at rebounding and dunking, but if you add a 3-point shot, you're going to go from, the 15th player on the bench to a starter. Do you want to work with a 3-point coach? Because that's me. I'm the 3-point specialist coach. I'll turn you into Kristaps Porzingis if you want to be Kristaps Porzingis or Kevin Durant. And so what I told Jason was like, listen, you've experimented with 5 different revenue streams. Can we pick one and make it grow? Because I'm willing to bet the 100 on you and the product you've built and this kind of early wandering, product market fit. But I will tell you sincerely that those downstream investors, when you show them 4 or 5 different revenue streams, are going to go, oh, he hasn't figured it out yet. Great. When you figure it out, then you can come talk to me, right? And how has that advice helped? And you look at your business, Jason, and the experiment that you're going through. Where are you at with your business? And maybe you could say one sentence about what the business does.
Sure. So we are Thalamus, and we do residency and fellowship interview scheduling for hospitals. And so Andrew Jason's launched Accelerator, and we had this exact conversation that he's describing. And so we have data, we have doctors, we help streamline that whole hiring process. And so we had a lot of different ways we could take the business, and he really got us focused on sort of our core products. And Jason, I'll be sending you our investor update tonight. We had the best June we've ever had. July is already better than June. We're shattering our ARR from last year, and so a lot to discuss there. But some of it's because of the pandemic, but some of it's also because of the focus, and we focused our product on what we needed, our core market, and what they needed. And then as COVID hit and everything's now transitioning to virtual, that same core product that we have now extended a little bit. That 3-point shot, I would say, would be our virtual interview experience now. And now every hospital in the country is reaching out to us, and it's accelerated like rocket fuel. So it's
amazing. And it was literally, how many ideas did you have for products when we met, or how many were you testing? Revenue streams?
Maybe 5, 10, somewhere around there. It was a lot of different streams, and once we focused that too, the pitch got better, and that's why we closed our seed round also. So
right.
Yeah.
So this is the big unlock. Thank you, Jason, for sharing that. It's very honest of you. And so, my job with founders sometimes is really simple. they're trying to do too much with too few resources, and they think more resources is the solution, when in fact, less resources and more focus is the solution, right? And I have had this experience in my life as well. I've had to really focus in on what actually drives the needle. You know what drives the needle? Me showing up at things like this. My next investment is somewhere in this audience, either for your current company or your next. And every time I spend an hour with founders, whether it's 7 or 70 or 700, yes, and whoever raised their hand first, I'll write the check for that person. I think it was you, Janita, so you get the check. Thank you. I was basing it on who has the quickest response time to raising their hand. But in all sincerity, we all have a limited amount of time, and we are in a competition. You must focus. And Jason is, if I had to pick my top 10, like crazy product genius folks who needed to get focused, in my experience, he'd be in that top 10. That's not an insult. The first year of your company very much should be spaghetti throwing. Throw a piece of spaghetti every direction you can. And when one sticks, you go check it out. And what really makes me crazy is I will talk to a founder and they have this little tiny oil drill, and they crank the oil drill and some oil comes out, and they're like, look, I got oil. And I'm like, can you sell that oil to that person who needs the oil? And they're like, okay, let me go ask them. And the person's like, yeah, here's $100. Thanks for the barrel of oil. And then I'm like, okay, more oil. And they're like, yeah, I took the rig apart and I put it in the back of my truck, and I think I'm going to try digging up some diamonds in the diamond mine next. And I'm like, but you just found oil. Is there any more oil down there? And they're like, maybe. I'm like, well, how would we find out if there's more oil? And they're like, well, you just crank the drill 2 more times. Okay, how do you find diamonds? They're like, well, I don't know. I got to go research that and find a new drill, and I think it's a different drill bit. And I think I need like a whole different team to get diamonds. I'm like, maybe we should keep just drilling for oil in this spot, because sometimes like there's like a big oil deposit and you could just keep taking all the oil, and that's customers, right? So I think once you find it, and that's product market fit, and that's revenue, and you show that you can focus on that for a couple of years, it's really what investors are looking for, seed and or. So in terms of qualitative things I'm looking for, I like people who can have a conversation with me, an honest, candid conversation, and who are highly adaptable and intelligent. Jason falls into that. Like when I had this conversation with him, he wasn't like, he didn't cry. He wasn't insulted. He was like, okay, you've done this before. I haven't done it as many times as you. Keep talking. And then he asked me more probing questions. And you really want to be able to have a productive dialogue with your investors. If you are annoying, abrasive, with high performance, people will throw money at you. If you're annoying and abrasive with no performance, people will not respond to your email. So you just got to be careful. And Jason's actually delightful to work with. And I think, when you go on these journeys together, we've been on the journey for 2 years, Jason, if I'm correct.
January 2019, so a year and a half.
Year and a half, yeah. So we're just finishing up 2 years together.
Yeah.
We'll be sitting here in year 5 or 6, like I am with calm.com, or year 10 or 11 with Uber, or year 5 with 5 or 6 with Robinhood, and the discussion changes, and then you'll be calling me saying, hey, Series B, what do you think of this partner, this partner? Hey, we got an offer for this much money to buy our company. What do you think about selling it? Should I sell secondary? And the discussions change, but the relationship remains, which is an honest, dialogue with candidness to win together. That was the first. I think it spent 10 minutes on one question, but go ahead on the next question. I'll give shorter answers, I promise.
Sure. The next question is from Claire, asking about if you think for any particular industries you're seeing increased investor appetites and eagerness.
Sure. People love subscription revenue. They love reoccurring revenue, and they hate when you have to spend all this time and money to get $1, and then next month you're at $0 again. So a subscription-based business, whether it's consumer like Calm, CZ, Netflix, Spotify, any number of businesses where you give money every month on your credit card and you all look at your credit card statements and you see them, or SaaS, which is subscriptions for businesses, people love reoccurring revenue. People hate one-time sales. Other things people hate, service-based businesses, where you're selling hours of humans to people, because then your business is based upon how little you can pay a talented person, and then how much you can charge a company that needs that talented person. And in both cases, the margin gets compressed as efficiency in the world occurs and software occurs. So they hate the reselling of human capital in this way. They would rather see you build software or a marketplace, et cetera. They do like marketplaces as well. Those are businesses that can scale. So businesses that can scale means the same number of people can work on the product while it makes more money. So for Jason's business, you know, if he only needs 10 people to make the core product. In fact, if you had 25 people making the core product, it wouldn't be as efficient as 10. But if he goes from 5 salespeople to 10 salespeople, the revenue will in fact double, right? That could be linear. But the cost of making the product will be the same. If it was 10 people and they cost $100,000 each, and it was $1 million in product development, and each salesperson cost $100,000, when you add the 10th salesperson, and each salesperson sells $1 million a year, now you've got 1.9 million in fixed costs. You add 100,000, and the revenue goes to 10 million, from 9 to 10 million. That's the efficiency that people are looking for. So I gave you a little bit of what people hate as well. But subscriptions, if you can figure out a way for your business to be something that people pay for monthly, it also gives you a true north, because when people unsubscribe, you can ask them why, or you can look at when they use their product, what do you see in the data, and did they go switch to a better product? And you can ask them, why did you switch to that better product? Or if you're making a better product, you can go to people with the previous product and make it better, cheaper, faster, whatever, change the business model a bit, and take their customers, which is also known as capitalism, where people in a fight to make better products and services. Next question.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Listen, I got to run because I have a really important meeting, but you'll like the results of this meeting.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah. All right, cool.
Don't sell the company. Keep building.
I'm not. No, it's not that. Big customer though. We'll chat soon. Thanks.
I mean, if they overpay you, maybe, but okay.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, all.
All right, Jason.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, we're over time a little bit, but I'm going to keep asking a few more questions. I love this one that just came in. It's like a bunch of questions together, but how do angels and VCs view pivoting? Do you think it scares people away, or is it a sign of adaptability? And how many pivots do you think would make someone seem unfocused or unsuccessful?
Yeah, people do not care about how many pivots you have made. If you made 10 pivots and the business is growing 20% a month, they literally don't care how you got there. They care that you're there. So in the analogy of being an NBA player, my favorite sport, if you're a three-point specialist and you can hit threes at a percentage of 10 or 20% better than anybody else, and you don't turn the ball over, and they're like, how did you learn that? And you're like, I learned it from 7 years and, we're playing in China or in Eastern Europe or Israel, whatever other league. They don't care. They only care about the performance. One thing I will tell you is with these pivots is you need not explain how you got there. And so what founders will do is they'll say, okay, we have made, we're growing at 27% on average a month for the past 6 months. We are now at 18,000 a month at revenue. It's incredible. And people are like, great, you're raising money. And then other people go, we started here, and then we went here, and this failed, and this failed, and this failed, and this failed, and this failed. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They're too busy. So don't tell the history of the pivots. Just focus on performance. Pivots are iterations, it's evolution, it's learnings applied to make a product or service better. Nobody cares. Rip all that shit out of your deck and throw it away. And just put a chart of your growth and put quotes from your top customers about how they cannot live without your product. Done.
Awesome. I'll do this as the last question, and
Okay.
I'll make it YJ's since they sent it to me twice, so they're eager. Just because you've had years of experience working in startups, have you seen any changes or differences in how people approach entrepreneurship and building their companies in the past 10 years? And if so, what are those changes, or has it kind of always been the same game?
At the end of the day, you are in a competition to prove that we're all in a competition to prove that we're competent and that we are credible in what we are doing in life. And so that has not changed. There is a certain amount of money, and it's a large amount of money. And then there's a layer of capital allocators, fancy way of the people who decide who gets the money. I am now, and over the last 10 years, become a capital allocator. I decide to give Jason 100K to come to our accelerator, and then when he graduates, I decide if I'm going to put the next 250K or 500K in from the syndicate.com. Now, as a capital allocator, what are they looking for? And understanding their psychology is all that matters. There are tactics that have changed. And the tactic that has changed most, that's what hasn't changed. There's capital allocators, and you're trying to get them. On a tactical basis, it's so much cheaper to run experiments and build products. And then founders, the smart founders know if the experiment didn't work, to stop that experiment and run another one. And they look at the amount of resources and time they have, and they come up with a series of experiments to prove out product market fit. And that iteration is the sort of new startup science that Steve Blank, you can look him up, Steve Blank, and Eric Ries kind of pioneered, and other people have worked on. But basically, the people who create a landing page and test the landing page before building the product, or Amazon writes the press release for the product, and then they talk about how that press release reads before they build the product. The people who are intentional in being efficient in that way and running experience and running lean startups and capital efficiency, that actually is the #1 change today from 10 years ago. But the credibility and the capital allocation has only gotten bigger and more vibrant. There is a bigger appetite now, even in the pandemic, for private market companies. You need only show 20% month-over-month growth for 3 to 6 months for people to want to meet with you. And then if they meet with you and they believe it can continue, if they give you capital, well, then you will get that capital.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jason. Well, we are at 1:06, so sadly, I have to wrap us up. Hardest thing about these virtual events is we don't have our awesome EC applause, but you can imagine our head. Thank you, Dell. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Dell.
Just as a reminder, next Thursday, Dell is doing office hours from 10 to 12. Everyone will get a link after this if they want to sign up for those, and also a link of the recording if you would like to share it with everyone. So look out for an email from Zap. In the meantime, Mobolaji, did you want to say a couple words before I play the video? Will you unmute yourself, Mobolaji?
Sorry about that. Thanks to everyone. Thanks to the NEC for to Jane and the team, Zap, Donna. I can go on and on. Thank you so much for making this happen. Thanks to Jason Calacanis. This has been very, very insightful. I took a bunch of notes, right? So thank you so much. And Zap is going to play in a few seconds our new XPS 13 laptop. I do strongly believe this is the laptop, for the modern day entrepreneur. It is definitely the gold standard, for ultra portable laptops out there. And also the first laptop on the market right now, the first 13-inch laptop like that to include like a 4-sided Infinity Edge display. So we're excited to kind of share with the community. And as I said earlier, if you have any questions, please reach out to Marcus Devane. You can also reach out to Zap, right? And also shoot us an email at setups@dell.com, and you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. So thank you.
Cool. I'm going to play this video. Oh, 1 second. It's making me sign in. Boom. Well, if that didn't get you revved up, I'm not sure what would. That music got me going. Thanks everyone for being here. If you're still here, actually, if you wanted, it'd be great to get like a quick photo. If you would like to turn your video on before you leave the call. That would be cool. All right, and everybody wave. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see your lovely faces in real life eventually. And hit me up if you need anything.
2021.
Yeah. You'll get an
2021. It's
email
gonna
after
happen.
this, though, so look out for
right.
it.
You guys
Thank
know my
you.
email. I'm on Twitter @Jason. If you ever need me, I'm there.
Bye, everybody.